This is Corporia by Mark Plemmons. And if that name sounds familiar, you may have heard it before in connection with games like Hackmaster, or before that with Aces&Eights. And when I knew that it was him that was involved with this game, I felt confident in backing it. And what he's delivered is a kind of a curious game. Corporia is a dystopian future where corporations have come to rule, but not a bleak world like Cyberpunk or Shadowrun, where everything's gritty and coming apart. This, on the surface, seems like paradise. But of course, when you peel that surface back, things are crawling under the skin of the world. And in this candy-coated, media-described world, underneath that, things are starting to appear. And maybe because of how the world is changing. Famous knights from the past, servants of the Round Table, servants of the once and future king, have started to reincarnate around boardroom tables, where once they were knights in shining armor, now they're knights in shining Armani. At its basic level, Corporia is a game where player characters will represent members or recruits to what's called the Night Watch. And this is an organization which, at a certain degree of hiddenness or openness, depending on how you're setting things up, is managed and run by these reincarnated knights of old. Characters don't have to know anything about that, or they can be more on the in. Beings, creatures, forces from Arthur's day are making themselves known to one degree or another in this future world. And it's the player character's responsibility to do something about it. This is a world of virtual reality. This is a world with AIs of varying types. This is a world with growing robotics. This is a world that is extensively linked and networked and patrolled and sanitized and made safe for everyone, but at the same time, in the dark alleys, magic is growing. Monsters are coming, and you are not safe. In layout and design, Corporia takes this conceit of the corporate-sponsored night watch of protectors right to every page. The book itself is laid out much like you'd expect an operations manual or a human resources manual from just about any company you could run into. Again, using photographs to represent its content, and corporate-styled clip art to drive its point home, Corporia feels like a very immersive part of its setting. You know what you're getting into. Now, the book itself offers you 13 character archetypes to start building from. It has a dynamic spellcasting system divided into sorcery and witchcraft, and rules for hacking and that sort of thing. But it also has a guide to what's being called the city. A detailed chapter or a series of chapters on each location in the city mapped out with all kinds of story seeds and the like tossed in. So it's very easy to give players a sense of where they are if you decide to use this setting. Or if you're building your own setting, it's very easy to get a sense of the intended mood for the rules and spark your creativity, making places of your own. The book is offered in full color and was very extensively checked for errata. Now, of course, there are a few that snuck past, and these have been noted. And if you are a PDF owner, they'll just vanish when you download the update. Now, speaking of the PDF, it's extensively hyperlinked and bookmarked. It's really easy to use the PDF, right down even to the character sheet, which if I can get to the page in the book, you've got to see. There it is. So in the PDF, each aspect of this is hyperlinked. It's click and go to that section so you can understand what it is that you're building in your first character. Really nice. If you see someone who might be irradiated, retreat to a safe distance and call the Omnicorp CRC hotline immediately. One of the nice bonuses that backers got were these 2 quick reference cards, hit locations and the details you need to run a game quickly in bookmark size for this book. At its heart, the game system is quite simple. This is a 2d6 system with target numbers ranging from simple at target number of 3 to epic at a target number of 17. And as you'd expect, you take a trait and pair it with a skill. So here the traits are called core values. So this might be something like, casting a spell. So you take your magic trait and add to it your sorcery discipline. Okay, or firing a ranged weapon. Your deafness plus your firearms. The core values are strength, deafness, metal, knowledge, wits, and magic. And the skills are, fun. For strength-related combat skills, we've got fisticuffs and getting medieval. Right? For metal-related, we've got, valor. Wits, we have influence or instinct, and then magic, there's a variety of skills attached to that. So it's good fun. The mechanics are tied right into the setting. So part of the mystery of what's going on is this new energy, which scientists have kind of dubbed the flux. And roles are talking about flux dice, and characters have also flux points. Now, flux dice, the way that works is you roll your 2d6, right? You choose the highest number, right? The die that rolled the highest number, you add that to your skill and compare that to the target number to determine whether or not you succeeded, right? And you can spend flux points to alter circumstances in your favor, should you like. The book offers a lot of good advice for how to set up your first campaign and develop the city and deal with your corporate threats. Or not so corporate threats. There are a lot of those. And it has a phenomenal index. Hyperlinked. With the simple system, the easy-to-use archetypes, the massive number of city locations and story seeds, plus included adventures and a nice bestiary, plus the evolving background, it's quite simple to get a game of Corporia up and running. The campaign for Corporia was one of those ones where I wasn't really sure it was going to make it. A lot of people seemed to be excited about the game. A lot of people were sharing, links to the Kickstarter project page, but the dollar figure just seemed to keep hanging around. And this was a game I really wanted to see, so I was willing to back it more extensively than I might normally. And so full disclosure here, this is a game that I went into with dedication to see it in print. I was predisposed to like it, and I do like it. Once I've had a chance to play it thoroughly with a group of people that aren't aware of it, then I'll do a full review of the game system. This is just an overview of first impressions of receiving the game in print. All right. And if you get this game, I contributed in a very small way to this. One of the perks I got as a backer was being able to contribute a location to the city. And I think each group that backed the project at that level contributed something pretty interesting. Mine's probably the weakest one of the bunch, but you may hear more about it later. Now, with all these positives, surely you're thinking there must be something negative about this game. Well, of course there is. I mentioned in another part of the clip that there were some typos which made it through. Some of these are in the index or the table of contents, and that was brought to our attention before we received them, and they've been fixed in the PDF. But that's something that's going to haunt the designer forever, and may throw some unsuspecting gamer for a loop if they wind up on the wrong page. Worse things have happened. But speaking of page, that's what I want to talk about. In a lot of our other under the hood videos, we've looked at the quality of the pages, how thick they are, how translucent they might be, how much of a bleed there is from one side of the page to the other. Corporia was billed as going to have glossy pages, and it doesn't. And the pages are somewhat thin, and if you look here, you can see the ripple. Now, this ripple will go away once it spends time on my shelves packed tightly. And this ripple is really beyond the producer's control, more or less, as what causes it is the position on the roll of paper that your particular book comes from. So there will be people who received this book who do not have rippled pages, and there will be people who do, depending on how early or how late in the print run they were. The pages are not glossy. They are excellent. The color is bright, but it is a kind of a matte look or matte finish, and the pages do feel thin. Not tissue paper thin, but thin. As you go through, you can flare the pages and crease them. So this is not what the designer wanted. This is what the designer got, and he mentioned it to us in a Kickstarter update, and basically got support for the go-ahead. So there you have it. But in print, this brilliantly dynamic cover, you will not find it at the present time backed up with glossy magazine style pages. It would have been dynamite if that's what we had gotten, but that's not what we got. So how does this compare to other games on my shelf? This is pretty much identical in terms of page quality to other full-color interior print-on-demand books, such as one I recently overviewed, Lords of Gossamer and Shadow. Now this uses color differently. It's not quite so heavy, not quite so dark, like dark purples and heavy blacks. So the pages don't behave as stiffly or make the kind of noise that we observed in that other book. So it's really not so bad. But if you see this on the shelf and you're thinking, wow, those pages are really going to pop, they do pop, but it's a smaller bubble than you might expect. So this is Corporia. It's one of the best done Kickstarters I've backed so far. Now, there have been a few where I have been very impressed. This is one where the producer, Mark Plemmons, told us that the book was finished, and the book was finished. This is one where he told us what the book would look like and showed us what the book would look like, and it ended up looking like that. He told us when it was going to be finished, and it was finished early. He told us when it was going to be printed. It was printed on time. He told us when it was going to be shipped and when it would arrive. He shipped it, and it arrived early. How about that? Not only that, but those of us who received the hardcover, it was signed. And he got them to us early. Personally, I feel if you're not up to this level of dedication in a Kickstarter, you're not ready for Kickstarter. Sure, accidents happen, and nobody's truly prescient. But the guy who put this game together also did this as a new daughter arrived. Am I making my point? Corporia by Mark Plemmons, the first role-playing game released by Brabblemark Press. Check it out.